So, good evening and welcome to another episode of Secrets of the Obvious. This is episode 31. So, this is a very important Course in Miracles related question that is often asked. And the question I've received is Hi Lou, ACIM speaks of my creations, and what are my creations? So, to get it very clear from the onset, regardless of all the stories you've been told of mystical beings speaking to you or channelings or any of those esoteric concepts. A Course in Miracles is primarily, first and foremost, addressing the dreaming mind. And what is addressing the dreaming mind? The awake mind, Christ mind, right mind is addressing the wrong mind or dreaming mind. And so it's essence energy, and we have a name for that essence energy, God, and the extension of essence energy, Sun. And while the Sun dreams, the extension of God's energy, Spirit, Holy Spirit, it's just energy that pulls us back into alignment. It's actually also simple. It's just energy. And way back when man started looking for the nature of true reality or the nature of self or the nature of God, there was no word for energy. And so the word that came about was spirit. And so God is spirit, extends spirit, his spirit. The extension of God's spirit is the sun or the sonship. When part of the sun's mind fell asleep and dreamt up the universe, he fractured that dreaming mind into gazillions of thoughts. Thoughts then appear to take form, but the right mind is not talking directly to the thoughts that appear in form. The right mind is talking to the dreaming mind. Now, the dreaming mind is constantly broadcasting thought, which appears either in form or non-form, which is first part of the dream spirit world. Yet it still talks directly to the mind, right mind talking to dreaming mind. And so as the sonship, you are creating with God, therefore extending what? Present moment awareness, essence energy, God's unconditionally loving energy. These are just words, concessions, cannot be explained. But in our understanding through our physical appearance of a physical experience, it's just joyous peace, loving, unconditional, joyous peace. While we are fractured, thinking we are separate, what are our creations? Nothing. We're not creating anything. We're making manifest. And as I've spoken before and explained before, we are thoughts, thoughts appearing in form, and thoughts don't think. What we think are our thoughts are the broadcasts of our dreaming mind. And the moment we take those thoughts to be our own, because we then think we're separated own beings, then we think that we have those thoughts. We don't have a single thought. And so we're then, once we've gotten sufficiently out of the way, sufficiently aligned with right-minded thinking, the thought in form starts to dissolve its separate identity, its imagined identity, and therefore hears the call from the right mind to the wrong mind. And it then starts to return to its essence energy. And that essence energy is in a continuous and perpetual state of creation. What is that? It's constantly extending itself as loving, joyous thought. And so, what are your creations? Every loving thought you've had, which aligns with your right minded broadcast, which is loving thoughts, are your creations. Your children aren't your creations. Whatever you've made in this world isn't your creations. Your art, your music, none of that's your creations. It may appear to be, but it's a byproduct of unconditionally loving thoughts, which once you fully align to self, it appears to be expressed as enthusiastic, inspired creativity. So everything you share without conditions in an unconditionally loving way is what your creations are. All of us, so-called spiritual, the spiritual group, and of course there's a variety of spirituals. There's the non-dualists, there's the bliss bunnies, there's the mystical followers, there's those that look for answers in mystical antiquities, there's those that follow various religious paths, those that follow various spiritual paths. We've all had somewhere in our life a glimpse into absolute reality. What is absolute reality as experienced by a thought in form? It's just pure silent stillness, the joyous, beautiful sound of silence. And it's a presence which is all encompassing. It's a presence of pure presence. We use words like present moment awareness. And that's what it is. It's just pure awareness of awareness itself. It's just pure essence energy, love essence energy, aware of itself as love essence energy, aware that love essence energy is all there is. Now, everyone on the spiritual path or on a path to communicate, connect, reconnect, remember self and God has had that glimpse into absolute reality. If you haven't had it, you wouldn't be seeking for it again. And as we all know, it's only the seeker, the ego that seeks to get rid of the ego. Therefore, keeping itself in a perpetual state of searching for, not recognizing that its true essential right-minded nature is that peace of God which transcends understanding into knowing the peace of God you are. So everyone has this and then searches for it again. And awakening to absolute reality, in other words, the thought and form recognizes it's not real, but that its essence energy is, then at some stage awakens to self. And this could be either a sort of spontaneous occurrence, or it may come, so it may happen at a very young age as a spontaneous occurrence, or, like as in the story of Ramana Maharashi, or a Jesus, for example, um, stories. But nevertheless, it may come spontaneously, or it may come again spontaneously because of our dedicated practice of self-inquiry, or it could even come because of a lifetime of dedication to God in whichever way we've perceived or conceptualized God. But the fact is, it doesn't matter how we perceive God or conceptualize God, our dedication to God will bring about that spontaneous, natural spontaneous occurrence of awakening to self. Or it could also be through a very lengthy lifetime dedication of searching for the truth in a myriad of different ways. The reality is you've seeked, you've asked, and God answers. Holy Spirit answers. As characters in our shared dreaming mind, because that's what we are, thoughts of a dreaming mind of what it could possibly be. And it puts together 8 billion variations of what it could possibly be. And since the population of the world is still growing, and since the universe is still expanding, it means that we're still in the falling fast asleep stage of our dreaming mind in this present moment time, in the illusion of time as a sequence. So anyone wants to tell you that we're all awakening, well, we're not. We're still sleeping. And still, as long as there's more thoughts and form appearing, population seems to be growing. That means the dreaming mind is still appearing to fracture. Now, you haven't heard that before, and it doesn't sound very romantic because we want to believe there's a shift happening. But the mind's still dreaming until the universe starts collapsing on itself. And since it's taken 16 billion years and still expanding, it'll take just as long, by deduction, I assume, and just as long in the sequence of the illusionary time to then collapse upon itself. So it still seems to be expanding, according to the scientists. And since there's still more bodies being born, thoughts in form being born, that means the dreaming mind is still appearing to be fracturing. Not romantic. Don't want to hear that. So what's the quickening or the awakening or the whatever shifts it seems to place? It's again just fantasy by spiritual delusionists who want to believe that they're part of a special club awakening to self. That's the reality. That's the bottom line. You think you're creating, you're still making. You're making manifest. True creation is just pure being itself knowingly as pure love, pure, unadulterated, unconditional, indivisible, always present, eternal love. So, as characters in this dreaming mind, the thought appearing as form chose to fall asleep in order to usurp the power of God because it wanted to make its own reality. It didn't like a reality where everything was equal. It wanted to be special. Why did it do that? Well, we can't answer it with the same mind that is dreaming it. And yet, when sufficient part of that fractal thought and form, dreaming mind, realized it was dreaming, it called out to God and God answered. And so thoughts in form in the dreaming mind started to disappear from the dreaming mind's awareness or consciousness, more accurately. What happened to those thoughts that appeared in form, thoughts of what it could be? What happened to them? They dissolved into the light of awareness. In other words, they returned to right-mindedness. It's so simple. It's what happens to you when you dream at night. As more and more of the characters in your dream realize that you're dreaming, you eventually wake up in the morning and the dream's gone. So once we've experienced directly through whatever, whether it's through dedication, devotion, or we've sufficiently done enough letting go of identity, the spontaneous event to awakening to self happen. Once you've really recognized you've done this to yourself. Now, people don't like to hear that. People want you to rather focus on doing shadow work and don't bypass anything, stay in suffering, face your thoughts. You're going to be facing the broadcast thoughts of the dreaming mind forever. In other words, you're going to be facing the thoughts of unreality. Or you can step out of it completely ignore all thought of the dreaming mind. In other words, ignore all thought and stay in present moment awareness. Rest as awareness. Abide in silent stillness. You've heard it a million times. Why don't you? Because you don't like the idea of never having existed at all. You like the idea of God and Jesus or heaven, where you're going to be. And yet there's not going to be a you. There's not going to be a me. There's not going to be 8 billion souls. There's 8 billion our souls running around right now thinking they're real, but they're not. They are just thoughts appearing in form. So once we experience that right-minded phenomena, we then have a choice whether we stay vigilant for that present moment awareness, which is a highly aware state of being, and even that is a concession, because there's no real state. It's just awake. Or we slowly and gradually get captured by the constant broadcasts of the dreaming mind that makes us doubt whether or not we had that aha moment, that absolute reality moment, glimpse into absolute reality, that holy instant. And before we know it, we're straight back into second guessing ourselves, believing the thoughts, believing we're bodies, believing, and then we've then added spiritual labels to our bodies, special spiritual labels to our bodies. And we're down that rabbit hole of dream state again. Now, regardless of whether we stay in that and choose to vigilantly stay awake to awareness, aware of awareness, or regress back into dream state, that's our choice. That's the only choice we have. Align with thy will be done or resist it. But regardless of whether you resist it or you align, it's changed your life, your apparent thought and form life, body, mind life. Why? Because your awareness of awareness has been triggered and you can't ever go back. And you can make excuses and go back and join a religious cult again or do another 40 retreats, believing that other people have the answers for you, which no one does. Only you will have the answers for you because you're uniquely structured, formulated by the dreaming mind as a very unique thought and form in its dreaming mind of what it could possibly be. So there is no other single thought in form that gives you the answer that releases you to the awakening of self. There is a formula given by our Holy Spirit, and that is practice forgiveness until you recognize there's nothing to forgive and that you've done this all to yourself, regardless of whether you like that idea or not. But you have. If you see darkness in the world, the darkness is in your mind. If you see evil in the world, the evil is in your dreaming mind. Full stop. It's all you. If you've had an abusive partner, abusive whatever, a wife that cheats, a girlfriend that emasculates you, or a husband that is sexist and whatever, you have drawn it unto yourself. The entire world is a mirror of your internal state of mind. So if you see war and you focus on war, you focus on neighbors and noise and traffic, then it's because there's noise in your mind. You haven't forgiven yourself. It's one of the hardest things to do because what we like to do is to find fault and blame someone else. We love to blame someone else. We do not like to take responsibility. And if you've had that holy instant glimpse into eternity, that aha, you can return there. But the belief that you have to find it through some practice, through some gurus, through some schools, through some whatever, is what prevents you from being that knowingly. Because if you think about it, it happened spontaneously when you weren't actually thinking about it, even though you may have been doing years and years of searching for it. Now, if you truly have returned to that awareness, you certainly wouldn't be listening to me because you'd be there. You wouldn't need to listen to another teacher, guru, swami, guru swama dude. You wouldn't need any of this nonsense. You'd never pray again. You'd be in a constant state of awareness, knowing that that is the ultimate prayer, gratitude. So either you embrace the fact that you realize that you as a thought in form is not real. I'm not a body, I'm free, I'm still as God created me, and you accept that completely. Or you go back into storytelling and asking questions for answers that cannot be answered because no matter what anyone tells you, it's at best a concession because the ultimate truth is silent stillness. So either we lovingly embrace the knowing of our being, the awareness of awareness we are, or we return to fearful resistance of it because we're afraid of never having existed as separate body entities ever. But that's not only the only problem. That's part of it. The fact is that whether you like it or not, whether it sounds romantic or right for the spiritual seeker or not, the ego is not going to let you go. And the closer you get to the recognition of your eternal beingness, the more the ego attacks you with what? With doubt. It's not true. You're making it up. Can't be true. You're just guessing. You think you're special. It's going to tell you that. And then it's going to bring back the past into the present. That's what the ego does. Bring back the stories of the past, puts it into the present, and then projects it as if it's a continuum into the future. What does the truth do? What does Holy Spirit, present moment awareness do? It dissolves the past. It brings you into full present awareness with no story of the past, no resistance, no complaint, no unhappy thought. And in that present moment awareness, the so-called appearance of a future is then more of that present moment awareness. But there's no future because you're always in the now. So vigilance and gratitude is the only way. And that requires discernment. Now, don't get trapped into discernment as judgment because it's not. Discernment is choosing right-mindedness, which means choosing against wrong-mindedness, saying no to what is not true, saying no to what is a lie. This is why we need mighty companions, people that reflect excuse me, the face of Christ back at us. People that are direct with us, tell us the truth. And when we veer off into spiritual mumbo jumbo or bliss bunny nonsense or esoteric gobbledygook or searching for the ancient mysteries, hoping to find out whether we were Neanderthal or descendants of the Anunnaki, and if that's going to make us any happy, it won't. It just takes you down a rabbit hole, and there is no answers to what has on purposely been forgotten. So true friends, mighty companions in the Course in Miracles, are those who reflect the love, compassion, the guidance, and eternal support of Christ to its fractured dreaming mind, all its lost, fractured thoughts of its dreaming mind. So simple. And that's why once we've forgiven ourselves for having dreamt this nightmare up and taken full responsibility for being the dreamer, not just a thought in the dreamer's mind, because you appear as a thought in the dreamer's mind, you as a separate thought in form, but the truth of you and all of us collectively is we are the dreaming mind. And we are also the Christ mind. So do we want to be trapped in our dream, or do we want to be awake to self, aware of awareness, awareness of being? So don't look for mighty companions to help you see the face of Christ, because that's, again, meaning that you don't believe you are. Be that mighty companion that reflects the face of Christ, the love, the kindness, the compassion, the unconditional support, and also the discernment of right-mindedness. Be that knowing.